I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, January the 11th, where the art of the haggle is going on here on Thursday's trade. They're trying to get the trade kicked off, and I mean, they are doing anything to try to get deals going. Your cattle feeders have got their heels dug in, the few that still sell negotiated cash, and your packers are just, they're spreading rumors. They're offering steady base prices with kickers, just anything they can do to try to get some trade to develop without raising the price any. And as of late Thursday, they hadn't got anything done yet. We will find out what happens. It'll probably be on Friday before we see the bulk of the trade, and then we'll catch up on that on our next visit. But let's look at the board on Thursday. February live cattle up 7 cents at 124.87. April was up 12 cents at 125.92. January feeder cattle down just 7 cents at 146.75, and March up 17 cents at 145.07. The fat cattle trade, like I said, still never really saw anything develop. Just a few loads of cattle have sold in the northern plains, Iowa and Nebraska, at 123 and 195 dressed, with a few at 196. So that gives a clue that we're due for another buck or two in there somewhere. And if the guys will just keep dug in, I think they will see a steady to stronger market there. Box beef cutout values, and that's where it all lays. Your box beef cutout values have been just kind of drifting steadily lower here after the holidays, and your packers are still making money, but probably the narrowest margin that they've had for quite some time. Of course, they had a record year in 2018, and they'd like to keep that going, but now they're starting to resist a little bit because they don't want to whittle on those margins any more than they have to. But choice cuts on Thursday afternoon for the daily trade up 12 cents at 213.96. Selects at 207.77, up $1.30. That's a choice select spread of $6.19 on 125 loads. Your slaughter has been pretty brisk here. Remember, all year last year of 2018 was a heavy slaughter. We ended up 2.6 heavier than the previous year. So now that we're comparing it to 2018, if we can just keep up, we're doing a good job. And so far this week through Thursday, 477,000, and that's 5,000 more than the same week a year ago. Look at your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on Cattle Market Central, late in the afternoon on Thursday at 143.83, down just 27 cents, and under pressure with a lot of supplies around. All of your auctions having heavy receipts. It's just been kind of steadily lower, and not any green yearlings or anything to really pick that up, and most everything in that 700 to 899 pound weighted average and moving weighted average are really just calves. So there's not going to be anything, as good as they are. Nobody's going to reach out and really push on them too much. Look at some sales on Thursday. Pratt, Kansas, 3,500 head, thereabouts. The early call from a good market report there. Feeder steers, $3 to $5 lower. They had a good market last week, so in comparison, but just kind of jostling around. Feeder heifers were steady to a buck higher. It had a lighter test of calves, but what steer calves were on offer, the attractive kinds were sharply higher. We've seen that in a lot of Southern Plains sales this week. Heifer calves steady to a buck lower. A market, a big market, and a historical market that's always been good up in the Northern Plains. Billings, Montana is now on Cattle Market Central, and getting information from there. And you might think that all the strings of cattle up there in that region sell on the Northern Video, and they're not getting any of the cattle through the sales anymore. Not entirely true. I tell you what, seasonally, when they're running big, they had a good sale in Billings with a lot of long strings on there. I decided just to pull the whole market report out on Cattle Market Central there, and you look at it, and the sale was still going on Of course, in an earlier time zone, but over 2,500 head there had already sold. And look at some of the weighted averages, very impressive. And like I said, not just sort-offs on the video or country deals. These are strings of cattle still coming in the ring. Got it sitting in between the auctioneer and the buyers, and still some good markets coming through there. But look at those popular weights of steers and heifers. On the steers, they had 403 head of 5-weight steers, average 552 at 175.74, and that's on all of them, guys. And on your 6-weight steer calves, almost 600 head there, average 657 at 155.16. Let's look at some heifers. Don't talk about heifers enough probably, but 379 head of 5-weight heifers, average 546 at 150.91. And 356 head of 6-weight heifers, average 642 at 144.68. So good sale there in Billings. We're glad to be pulling that market on Cattle Market Central, and I say it about every time. You sale barns that are not involved in that, it doesn't cost a thing. Just get in touch with us, get in touch with me, and we can start pulling that market directly from the block and sure get a lot more exposure on it. Look at some other individual quotes coming through Cattle Market Central. Presho, South Dakota, 77 head of steers, average 751 at 153.25 there on Thursday. Broken Bow, Nebraska, 80 head, 801 pound steers there, bring $150.50. That's a good quote there at Broken Bow. And Mitchell, South Dakota, we know that they background those cattle to a heavy weight and then sell them. They're almost near beer fats when they bring them into market, but it doesn't take a whole lot to take these cattle on to finish. And some of those that have the frame and the go left in them, they can take them on to those heavier weights, and they still got quite a ways to feed them. But look at these big feeders here, 109 head of 1,021 pound feeder steers in Mitchell, South Dakota, bring 139.10, and that pencils up to pretty good. But that's your feeder flash for Friday.